lucky that we've got the chance of a venue from time to time. As I was saying to Mark just now, and I think we all know this, that for none of our workshops have we got a dedicated expert in just about any of our endeavors, whether it be composite building or aerobatic flying or aerodynamics or whatever. So
Hey, there's a budding one coming.
there's a what coming?
Budding expert.
Oh yes, who's that?
His name's Steve.
Is he a brother of mine?
I've seen those
Oh, he's got the same haircut as me. That's right.
molds or blacks or whatever you call them. Yo.
So for those who are not 100% sure of the history, we started having an event on the last weekend of January, approximately 14 years ago. But it started off as aerobatics, and it quickly became something. And it wasn't long before we had a trio of really good judges, and the guys started getting planes up and running dedicated for aerobatics. And I think for slope soaring it actually became something, because our aerobatic event became known throughout the world through RC Soaring Digest and online magazine and so on like that. But the problem with aerobatics is that it's not a fun day. Okay, or weekend. Aerobatics is quite stressful because we are telling you to do a specific maneuver, and we've got people judging you. So we're actually going to have people telling you that you fly shit or you fly okay, type of thing. And most people don't want to do this on the weekend. So we thought, now we've been thinking about it for a while, and we decided let's try out our pylon racing story for a while. Now the official FAI designation for pylon racing is F3F, F3B slope soaring events, or also glider events, unpowered glider events. So whether it's F3J or F3B, F3F pylon racing. Also in recent years, sometime now, I suppose probably a good 7 years ago, it went from a world-known event, a world championship. It wasn't an official world championships. It was called the Viking race. It was held in different countries across the world, but not FAI recognized. Now this changed, as I say, a good 5, 6, maybe even more years ago, and they now have world champs for F3F. And as a little side note, obviously what this now means is that for every country can actually now put together an official team for those world champs. And this now means that officially you can actually get colours, South African colours, American colours for F3F. It's the first slope soaring discipline where we can actually get your colours for the thing. It's just as a side note, I know we're not there yet, not quite, but this was also a part of our motivation to try this out, because we've been lucky for all the years with our aerobatic event that we've had such good support from our club, from Two Ocean Slope Soarers. Even though the guys, it wasn't their thing, you know, even really good pilots like Christo, it's a stressful weekend for him, you know, because he has to stand on the line, he has to do maneuvers, and he has to get judged, you see. So we were very lucky to have really good support from our club, sometimes a little bit from AFC, and also always, as we know, from Durban. But with F3F, there's the possibility of getting even better support in years to come, because one of the other events with an unpowered glider is F3B, which is a multitask gliding event where they have to thermal, but part of the event is actually pylons. One is just like what they call a distance thing, and the one is actual a speed thing, a time thing. You know, they've got so many, anyway. So they do a pylon type thing, although they winch up and catch thermals and they come and do. And what's happened over the last many years is that a lot of very dedicated F3B pilots up in Johannesburg with really nice fancy gliders but because it became so labor intensive to set up winches and to set up the pylons and this and that, it's kind of died out. So we kind of thinking that in years to come we might be able to tap into that market. The guys who enjoy that have got shit hot planes for that type of flying, and now we're going to offer them something to do with those planes. Anyway, so this is part of our motivation to go from an aerobatic event to a pylon racing event. We've also realized that we will quite possibly alternate the years, 1 year pylon, 1 year, even if pylon is successful, we'll probably alternate between 1 year pylon, 1 year aerobatic, and so on. Anyway, so pylon racing, where's that black marker? We're on the slope. This is our land over here. Yeah, sorry. So this is our slope over here and our lovely soft bush. And this is Red Hill, and here's the ocean in front of us. So our wind is coming over here. We are racing, if at all possible, on a course that is as close as possible 100 meters, and we are doing it 10 times for a kilometer. It's a timed event. It's a single pilot timed event.
Have you ever timed yourself?
I've done it a couple of times in an event where
What was the time?
I can't remember, but it was terrible. And the reason for that I'll explain. And it's
No excuses though, I just want to know how you fly.
no, it was crap. No, it was crap, and I'll tell you why. There was a good reason for it.
Fun.
Oh no, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. So
Do we actually have 100 meters across?
quite easily. In fact, this will become another part of the story a bit later on. You'll be surprised how short 100 meters is. And even if you're not going that fast, how quickly you cover 100 meters. So this becomes a lot to do with your approach to racing, pylon racing. Okay, so we're going to just go through the quick basics over here. We're going to have a pilot. Behind him, we're going to have, I don't want to call him a judge,
Observer.
the match director. Let's call him a match director for lack of a better term. We're going to have somebody at base A and we're going to have somebody at base B.
Is that the person that calls and
No.
Okay.
No. But what he is going to do is, so Mark, you the next person. Mark, you on standby, right? Get your plane ready. You are allowed to have somebody launch the plane for you. It's obviously advisable, in fact. Okay, so I'm going to launch the plane for you, so I've got your plane. Okay, the person in front of you is finished. You, from the moment that the match director calls you to the front, you've got 30 seconds to launch. Right, Steve, okay, right, ready. Okay, Mark, you check the plane, you ready, you happy and so on like that. Okay, cool, you ready? Right, this looks good. You've got 30 seconds to do that. From the moment you launch, you've got 30 seconds to enter the course. Now I'm going to explain this. The course is run starting from base A, be the 10 laps. Okay. We'll try and position the pilot in the middle of the course. So, you need to get over here somewhere so that you can come into the course. Right. Each of these guys has got a little 2.4, so a little car controller. This is what Christo did for us. He turned, we got a nice bit of kit over here that we got from the UK, but it was with wires. It was a button, and Christo changed it to 2.4 for us. So there we go. Right. You're going to launch. You're going to get the pilot. Some of the guys are going to launch for you. You're going to fly out here to get your maximum height. You've got 30 seconds from launch to get into the course. If you take longer than 30 seconds to get into the course, the time starts. Okay? That's all your baby, right? Obviously, you can get in as quickly as possible. It depends on how good the lift is, how quickly you get height, you think you're ready, you're going type of thing. So you would come out. Now, as soon as you pass, okay, on the So this guy's got this one over here, and this one is base A, and base A is different because it's got a little button up front. As soon as you've the plane's been launched and you fly out, as soon as you pass base A, okay, sorry, I must just start. So as soon as he has a start button, this is the match director. He's got this. He's going to push up there. Time to fly, 28 seconds. Okay, it's counting down. That's your 30 seconds. I called you to the front. You've got 30 seconds before you're going to get going, right? As soon as you launch, count down. Now it's starting again with 30 seconds. Now you've launched and you've got 30 seconds to get in. And if we leave it, you'll notice that if this 30 seconds runs down, now you've got 20 seconds left to get in. Now, as soon as you go past base A, that guy will tell you that you've gone past base A, right? Now you come down and you come past and he goes, first leg, second leg, third leg, fourth leg, fifth, sixth, 7, 8, 9, and ninth leg and 10 to stop it, and that's your time. The reason for this initial buzzer over here is that you might get launched and my stick plane. You don't want to get launched over here and then start to drift around over here, and you haven't really got speed here, and you go past the pylon and then you slowly drift back in again because he's going to hit the start button. Now you're busy wallowing around without any speed. You need to know from that signal that you now past base A, and you need to organize yourself some height and some attitude and some speed before you come back in. So he's going to tell you as soon as you passed base A.
Sorry, as soon as you've passed base A going that way.
Other way.
No,
Now,
going out.
now your time starts. So as soon as
You're going out, we'll tell you when you pass.
when he presses
sounds
this
as well when
button,
I'm going
it
that
does
way.
nothing to the timer. When he presses this button, it does nothing to the timer. It only rings the alarm to tell you that you've
That you've
passed
gone
base
past
A.
that
So you
way,
know
yeah.
where you are in
Yeah.
the sky.
Yeah.
Okay, so that you know you need to get out the way, get some height, and whatever. And then we start to do our
And then as
laps.
soon as you come past going that way now, you'll hear it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we are doing over here is, in the past, what we've done is obviously we've put 2 poles
Oh yeah.
in
You
line,
have to line something up, yeah.
and obviously we got to, the people lay out the course want to make sure that if that's facing 270 degrees, then obviously that's the same, so that we don't have this or that type of thing. Okay, so yeah, so we what we'll probably be trying out this year is a pole and a brightly colored piece of nylon, just to create, but we need to create that visual barrier, and
What I've noticed when I've watched the races on YouTube,
yes,
the guys fly, they'll do a bit of a swerve to go out properly. And then they go past and you hear that beep,
yeah,
and then they climb out, and while they're up there, you can hear it like 8, 10, 9,
Yes,
8,
yes.
they're going to get through, and then
Yes.
if they get through it, say between 3 and 4,
yes.
then it starts.
Yeah.
But there's they almost get like a 10-second.
The thing is, okay, so across the board it's 30 seconds. Okay, that's FAI rules. However, what you will notice that when you do watch YouTube is that the new systems are like more up to date. They've got a fancy female's voice telling them that you've just launched and that you've got 30 seconds and you've now got 20 seconds. Unfortunately, we don't have quite that, but yes.
I can bring Husky and make it focus.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah,
And it'll be sorted.
some of the guys I've noticed, where as soon as they launch, they'll turn to the right, they'll go through past base A, you'll hear the beep, and then they'll go up and get some height, and then 10, 9, 8, 7, they'll come through. And in some of the races I've watched, they'll do a half pipe. As soon as they get launched, they'll do this half pipe, backwards and forwards, and get speed and height. And then the last run, they'll run across, go through A, and then turn, and then 9, 8, 7, and they'll come through. So they have 2 different types of kind of
I think they call
height
that the
gaining.
pump.
Yeah, well, the thing is, in actual fact, it's almost endless, because what that is the people that know that slope are know how to get height as quickly as
Yeah,
possible. So, for instance, like the only time I've done it, well, I've done it a couple of times officially, but the one time was at Durban, and we did it at the site that overlooks Inando Dam. And that's a sheer cliff, really high and sheer cliff. And those type of slopes produce powerful energy right on the edge. It is good out there, but the real powerful energy is right up here. So you want to gain height and fly where the energy is best. And what I'm trying to get at is it's going to be different, infinitely different for every slope that you go to. We know that radial, it's out there on the right and quite far out. And that in actual fact, because of the shape of our slope, we've actually got more turbulent air right up front. You know, a good 20, 30, 40 meters in front of us is the best air on radial, typically. You know? But it will also then change from day to day. So on that day, we're going to say, maybe on that day there's no lift over here and there's lift right in front of us. I mean, we've had days like that. So in actual fact, then what you're going to do is, and we've seen this many times on YouTube, they'll launch, and as you said, now they'll do half pipes kind of inside here, making sure that he doesn't cross over, because he doesn't want to cross over and then be committed to come back again, because he's not ready for that yet. So he'll make sure that he does it over here. So, okay, that looks good. He'll shoot out the course quickly, hear the buzzer, and then decide how much time he's got left. And again, through experience and listening to the information, he'll know how much time he's got left and how long, you know, I'm up there, I've got 5 seconds left. Can I leave it for another second or two to come down, or must I come down now? Because again, if he comes down and he's over here and the 30 seconds is up, well, this is 1, 2, 3, 4 extra seconds to his time. You know what I mean?
You know, most of them, they all come through before the time.
Oh yes, definitely. I mean, the guys that you see on YouTube, I mean, these are the guys that have been doing it for years and years and years. But so again, for each slope and for each lift conditions and so on like that, you'll decide where am I going to get the best height in my 30 seconds type of thing. You know?
I presume 30 seconds is quite a long time, so you should be able to get quite a bit of height.
It is. The thing is, and again, this will be a little bit more of a discussion later on, is one of the biggest things in competition, in any type of competition, whether it be shooting, as you and I have done in the past, or flying aerobatics, or whatever, the thing that's going to hold you back is stress. You're going to launch, and you're going to say, okay, let's get into the course now because I don't want to be late, you know. So it takes a calm mind and experience to use those 30 seconds. You know what I mean? All too often, we will not actually use what's available to us, unfortunately. It'll take lots of practice and something like that. So, are we sort of all clear on the procedure of getting in and running the course?
What plane are you using then?
Let's not worry about the plane. Just remember, for our event that we've got 3 classes. We've got our swept wing foamy, a la B combat wing, right? We're keeping it for those planes, okay? We have got a 60-inch class, which can be made of any material, composites, you know, foam, balsa, whatever you like. And we've got an open class, which is, as per the instructions, an open class. In open class, they're typically using 2.8, 3 meter type wingspans.
But within each class, if you take one particular class, there's different planes in that class.
Yeah.
How do different planes with different speeds compete against each other?
So people have tried. People have tried.
So what are you actually testing? Are you testing the pilot's ability to get between the 2 points? But now the one guy's got a faster plane and the one guy's got a slower plane. So how does that?
Okay. So whether it comes to aerobatics or racing, so often people have come up with the idea of the one design type race or the one design type aerobatics. because they feel that no, you know, he's going to spend 65,000 rand on the latest slope shoring glider. He's obviously going to win. So we need to make a one design class where everybody flies the same plane, so we can see who the best pilot is. Okay, so an idea like that has got merit. Okay, but don't you think that also stifles progress as well? Because plane design is a big part of getting better, getting faster, getting better planes that turn quicker, that keep their energy better, and so on like that. This is a part of, I mean, you look at pattern flying, how those planes change from year to year type of thing, and your Formula One racing car. I mean, they're all supposed to be very similar, but they've all got their tweaks and they want to improve things all the time. So when it comes to the top guys, the planes start to become important. You will have to be in the top 5% of the world for the plane to make a difference. As opposed to Mark's, what's your nice red plane called again?
That would behave completely differently in someone who can fly.
No, but that nice composite plane, I mean, sure, if you took that plane and then you put it against a B, then, you know, in anybody's hands, your plane should come out on top. You know what I mean? Like, but if you're talking about this make it 2.8 or that make it 3 meters, they're all so close that, as I said, you have to be right near the top. And we've got a lot to learn and worry about before we worry about the plane. Okay. So let's get on to that. Let's get on to the actual flying part before we get onto the plane setup. The little bit that I learned, and this is why I flew so badly in Durban, is that 100 meters is really a short distance, especially when you've got a halfway fast glider. It comes up real quick. And what most of us were doing is coming down, starting on the course, flying, beep. Oh, I think I should turn now. Beep. Oh, I must turn now.
Yeah.
Beep. Oh, I must turn now.
Turn before the beep.
Yeah.
Before you go
Okay.
across, start turning before you go across.
Obviously, yes, obviously we all know this is what we want. We want to turn on that line. Okay, that's the ideal. Okay,
Shame, I've seen people miss it.
eh?
I've seen people miss it.
And then people miss
I mean,
it because the
I'm
top
not
guys
getting-
are doing, and they do that, and then they don't get the buzzer.
And then you have
And
to
then-
turn and go back.
And then there's a whole lot of different techniques on how to sort that out. See guys that turn, they don't get it, and they just do a big loop and they come back in again. You know, there's a lot of techniques. It depends on how you turn, your slope, all the type of things. These are the things that we must learn. But what you're going to find is that from coming over here, from turning to getting ready to turn here, you have got only and I'm talking about not flying that fast, 2, 3, 4 seconds of stable flight. And the problem is that when we're learning to do pilot racing, it takes us longer to settle down. We've turned, now I'm trying to go, and I'm trying to go fast. By the time I've settled down, I'm going fast, I'm already there. Okay? What you're going to learn with pilot racing is once you finish that turn, you're going to do 1, 2, 3, and you have to now start getting ready to turn again. Because by the time you are ready to turn, you are there already. Okay?
Roughly how long does it take between the two? With most planes.
So I try to work this out. An unbelievably bad time is 60 seconds. Okay? For 10 turns.
10.
Okay. That's 10 laps.
For 10.
For 10 laps.
60 seconds for 10 laps.
That's a really bad time. Okay?
you
World
said
record at the moment is
10
100.
You're talking 6 seconds between.
And that's 6 seconds. Okay? So let's first comprehend that. That's an unbelievably bad time. A bad time is 40 seconds. Okay? The world record at the moment is something like 20 odd seconds for 10 laps. But let's talk about 60 seconds. Let's talk about 60 seconds. Now consider that straight, turn, a third. Okay? That means that A bad time, you fly in straight and level for 2-3 seconds before you have to start setting up for that turn. Because if you're worried about who's got the best glider, the world's best glider is 4 seconds. 10 gliders down from that is 3.9 seconds. Okay, but you start to turn when you hear the buzzer. That is 4 seconds. Okay, so what I'm trying to get at is your turns for our level at the beginning. Getting to turn as close as possible on that pylon will be the big difference. Okay, if I'm flying as fast as Chris goes, when I start to turn over here and Chris starts to turn over there, he will cut my time in half. Okay. So when we get the equipment onto the slope and we start to do some practice, we are going to help each other to recognize what your plane looks like 50 meters away. Okay, because that's what a part of their practice is, to know that's what it looks like at 50 meters away. That means over here I need to start setting myself up. And I mean, don't let me sound like I know how to turn on pylon racing, but typically what they're doing now is up and down, up and down. What was very popular in the past was up, it's a half reverse Cuban, and down, up and down. They stopped doing that 10 more years ago. They've decided now that that is more efficient. But it now means that I'm doing that, 2-3 seconds of straight and level speed, and I'm starting to pick up and getting ready because I want that. As I get here, beep, and I'm down again. So that's how our big practice thing. The other big practice is to realize that no slope is going to be parallel to your race line. We just don't have slopes like that. As you stand over here, base B guy is going to be there, and base A guy is going to be down there because that's the way the slope is. But you are racing like that.
So can't you just stand further back? Well, obviously you want to stand further back.
No,
Why
No.
not?
No, you want to
you
see.
don't want to look at the turn judge. It's got nothing to do with you. You're going to
You
hear
gotta
when the
be-
glider gets there. Don't look at the turn judge. So when I'm flying over here at Red Hill, I know that that is the line that I want to fly. And that means that when I'm ready to turn, it's by signal school. And that's the spot that I'm aiming for. I must never now look at where is, because you're not going to see that pylon anyway. And you'll see in a lot of the YouTube clips, you actually don't even see the pylon, it's behind a bush or whatever. Cut that out of your mind. Not important. Important is your line, because we all know, quickest, straight line between 2 points. The last thing you want to start doing is flying there. You just increase your distance. So completely forget about looking for a turn judge. You decide on your line, and that's what you're aiming for. And you need to know that I need to start to turn now. And that's the big thing for us at our level, is how quickly or when I must now start to turn.
I think
So
it
you-
helps. I think it helps having Simonstown hills and stuff behind
Definitely.
Because
You will-
You've got a spot to aim for, actually.
Yeah.
You
You've
know?
got to have something
Make a
in
visual
the
walk.
distance.
Yes.
Far away. There's
Yeah,
no
yeah,
lining
yeah.
up.
Yeah.
with the,
And you know
the
that's
rest of the
where you
bay
start.
on the other side as well. You can,
Yeah.
Because
Just on the way.
you'll start to be attracted to the slope, as it were, and you'll start to fly around the corner because I want to fly to where the pylon is, and that's the worst thing that you can do. Also, from a safety point of view, we have you're not allowed to be on the edge of the slope or behind the edge of the slope and little things like that, but we won't worry about that now. What we're worried about is flying the shortest distance possible, which is that, even though the slope is running like that.
And you, yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine, say, that you could, it's like when you do combat to the bees, we always turn in about the same place. always,
Yes.
Right? So with this, you gotta without having a
marker.
a marker, you should sort of in your mind, hang on, no, okay, this is my
Absolutely.
points.
Exactly that. That's going to be a huge help to
Yeah.
you doing the best that you can do on the
Yeah.
day, type of thing. And I mean, but then keep in mind, of course, that we must be aware that we could end up at Sudwater or Chappies or wherever else, or Signal Hill or something like that, where it's not quite as easy to have a distant marker or a line. So you must start to learn to fly that straight line. And again, and I only keep on saying this because I know this from personal experience, is that you find that you want to now start to fly towards the pylon because you think, well, that's where I'm going to, but it's not where you're going to.
And just explain about where you're turning. If you're flying that way, you're always turning out. You turn out, obviously, on bar. Then you turn
Always,
out.
because the wind is coming from that is going to give you your best chance of getting lift with
Yeah.
as little elevator as possible. Because what you want is that so that you can swoop down, come up and swoop down and keep the speed up, type of thing. If you just do this, you'll see this sometimes on YouTube and something like that,
And then
because
we get elevator lift.
they got serious lift. They don't have to do that. You know what I mean? You look, but even I mean the fastest times that I think the fastest times that we've had is in Thailand or where is that? The
Taiwan.
The typhoon race. Eh?
I think it's Taiwan.
It's
Isn't it?
Taiwan, eh?
Mm.
And I mean, they have like gale force winds that they're flying in, and I mean, this is where they set up like 20 odd seconds, and I mean, the guy is not flying straight to level at all. It's just by the time he's down there again, it's already time to come up. He's going so fast, you know. So,
Must be interesting flying that.
nerve-wracking because again they're flying right on the edge of the slope, and quite often you'll see the oaks deck the planes, and then it's just pieces. So with this turn, here is the reason for setting up our differential. Now we all know what differential is on our ailerons, our aileron differential, okay? Right? This is where our differential comes in for the turns, because what we don't want is to come up, to turn, and we end up doing that with our nose up like that. That's just killing your speed. Now you actually have to pull it down. So we want to set up the differential on our glider so that when you roll, it actually pulls the nose down. Actually, almost uncomfortably so. Okay. If I go on straight and level on the front of the slope and I roll, it must actually want to pull my nose down. So now when I come up and I roll, it's already doing that, which is pulling me down for the next speed run, as it were. Up, roll, and it pulls the nose down, and there we go. Wayne, you did a lot of reading on this. I mean, that's about the size of it.
Yeah, you're just talking about the elevate. If you look at the lot of the forums and the write-ups talk about setup on the plane with the differential, snap flaps, all of that to give you that. And there's a very, very, very little amount of movement on their throws, particularly on the elevator. They run their elevator that it practically doesn't move, and then they bring it down 10%, and then they fly the course and they bring it down even more. And so obviously any elevator is like a sort of a brake, so the more you're yanking on elevator, the more you're slowing down. So there's a lot of other setup that gets done on the plane. So when they roll it like that, it automatically, it goes, as Steve says, it goes into that roll and tucks around, and they hardly have to touch any elevator to get that plane around. There's not a lot of, as one would think, turning it and then yanking on the elevator to go in, because that just drags everything back and slows it down. So they do a lot of setting on the differential, snap flaps, which is the dropping of your flaps on the plane, and like on the Elders, you can set that center crow with the ailerons. So when you roll it and you touch the elevator, that whole trailing edge drops down slightly. So that actually pitches the nose up even more. So then if you can get that setting right, you're using even less elevator to get that pitch, you see. So there's a lot of stuff that they do on the plane to get it to work.
Very fine adjustments. So we at our last workshop we were talking about plane setup and so on like this, and this is now another big part of this. In fact, this is maybe one of the biggest advantages of having a proper plane setup and specifically flight modes. Now, I always feel like I'm the one that's always harping on about flight modes, but I just feel that all the gliders that I've had, performance gliders that I've had, and I've had a couple of nice ones, flight modes have made my life as easy as possible. What a lot of us know from aerobatics and stuff like that, our aerobatic competition, is that whenever in a competition and you're getting stressed about trying to do your best type of thing, you need your workload to be as light as possible. Okay, so you know what flight modes are.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So a good setup for pylon racing is not the best setup for general purpose flying. Okay, it's not actually what you want for normal actual rolls and hot dogging around on the slope, where you want more elevated, lots of aileron and so on like this. So this is where you want your flight modes, so that I can set up a mode specifically for racing. On that same glider, I might also set up a thermal flight mode, where I can control the trailing edge of my wing and elevator compensation if I need it, so that on launch, because we don't need a lot of wind. This is the other nice thing about pylon racing versus our aerobatic competition. Our aerobatic competition, we always needed X amount of wind and energy to perform our maneuvers. There is a minimum wind speed, and I forget what it is offhand, but with pylon racing, if the plane can fly, you can race. The fact that you're going to have slow times in low lift is neither here nor there. We're all typically going to have the same conditions. So if it is a day like that and I launch, it's actually nice. I can quickly go into thermal mode, control my trailing edge to help me get as much height as quickly as possible and give me that slight advantage. Then I've got my height more than most people because I'm using a bit of camber and so on like this, and then I whack it into my speed mode, which now gives me my snap flaps, my less elevator, my different differential for a tuck-in of a nose, and a couple of different things. So again, the big advantage of flight modes. On that, on the plane setup, what you want to get with your flight modes or with your setup.
And I'll ask you about that.
Yeah.
The differential you're talking about to make that plane behave differently.
Yeah.
What exactly do you have to get? What do the sort of
So this is just the amount of up and down aileron that you're doing. So you typically have more upgoing aileron than downgoing aileron for your actual roll.
Okay.
What you're going to have to experiment with, because I actually can't tell you offhand which way is going to be more or less, but you're going to now change that so that as you roll, it's doing that, it's tucking the nose down. And then you can experiment by going up. What is that maneuver called? Isn't that a chandelle?
I'm not sure. They call it energy management.
Huh?
It's a fighter tail.
Yeah, type of thing. Is that not a chandelle though?
No, I never heard that one before. Fighter tail is that.
Yes.
From a lot of the notes I've looked at, Steve, that what they do is they run the plane like, so they're standing behind it. Okay, so they're facing, they run the plane down the slope, okay?
Yeah.
But he stands like this, so he flies it past him and he runs it away from him. But it's running along the slope, so he can see behind the plane. Then what they do is they set the differential and then they turn.
Yeah.
And then they see whether the nose pulls to the slope or whether the nose pulls out.
Okay.
And then they will change that differential until the nose, so you don't want it to bank like this and then yaw towards the slope. They want the nose to, as Steve said, as soon as you bank it, the nose to pull away from the slope down. So then they change the differential, and I'm sure it varies from plane to plane.
Yeah.
And so they change that, and they have settings, like you've said, a different mode. So they'll set up 3 modes on the plane, all the same, but each one's got a different differential. one radically different to the other, and then they'll run the plane and they'll bank it and see what it does. Now, that's not working. Then they'll go to mode 2, which is a different differential, and they run. And as soon as it starts to do, it pulls away from the slope, they will then follow that and then slowly tweak it down until they can get the speed out of it. So the modes, I know they do that. They set it up for their setup purposes. They use the modes initially to get the specs that they need, and then obviously you cancel out all those modes afterwards, and then you just use that one.
If you use the Mike Shillem setup, I think you've got it on your, then one of your trim settings is your differential. So you can change it in flight, the amount of differential.
On my S1 knob.
Okay.
And are they mixing in rudder as well to get that?
I don't
to
believe
get
so.
I don't.
the twist?
No, there's no rudder, because the rudder, that's drag at the back end.
So on that one of mine, it's doing the flap and the aileron together. Flap goes down a little bit, the aileron
Yes,
goes down.
yes.
So the
Oh,
whole
that's
wing.
snap flap.
That's snap flap, yeah.
What's the one when I pull back and the whole load goes up?
Snap
No,
flap.
that's
Yeah, I'm
Snap
talking
flap.
about when I'm turning. In the turns as well.
Oh, yeah. So you got your aileron moving with your flap.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's just.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that you'd have to experiment with, because that might be too much.
Might slow down.
It might slow you down.
Well, it just means you need to move your aileron less and your flap
Yeah, I mean,
less.
typically, the more surface that you can move, the less you have to move it to get the desired thing. And the less you move the surface,
The less
the
drag.
less drag it should be. One would think, anyway. So
Yeah.
I think it'll be a good thing to play with and something like that. But as Wayne was saying earlier on, ultimately what we're trying to do is get this job done with as little input as possible. Because every time you touch those sticks, it's just drag. Yeah.
But I don't understand how you can turn without using the elevator, because when you bank, but what's bringing the plane around?
You will be using elevator, but the thing is, because the nose is coming down, it's kind of helping yourself. And because the nose is coming down, that is set up by your differential. So all it is you're still using elevator, you're just using less elevator.
Yeah.
And again, the less, the better. Okay. On that note, is with the snap flaps, what you must also be aware of is that all too often a lot of the radios don't have finer, or the older radios didn't have finer control. And snap flap is as I touch my elevators, as I'm using my elevator stick, my trailing edge is moving type of thing, and you don't want that. You only want your snap flaps to come in after about 50% of elevator. Because as you come down and you try to line up and you're using small bits of elevator to line yourself up in the right place, you don't want your trailing edge moving the whole time, because that is also drag on a straight line type of thing. So you want to come up into the turn, and as you're going to come around, you give an elevator and only pass a certain part. Now it actually kicks in and helps you.
You can do that with the curves.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. You'll probably find there's even other ways to do it as well, but the curves will be an easy way to do it.
I would presume, I know with my old B, I think also I've just put differential, I mean, a few like sit. But there was one time in the flying, I think at Sandy Bay, and I was doing turns without even touching it.
Yeah.
I was doing turns and I never touched the elevator at all. I was just banking it and it would turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to understand as well that a lot of the information that I've looked at, the guys are saying it's never the same in any given slope or
Yes.
any given day. So they know how to mix ballast, how much ballast, what nobody ever wants to fly first. So they're always watching to see what the other pilots are doing. They've got to figure out what the slope's doing on the day, how much they have to give for the turn. So then they're working on ballast and they're working on differential. They've got all these things they're working on all the time to get the maximum out of the plane on that specific day. So there's no one, there's no one setting.
And is a lot of that literature specific to a particular type of plane?
No.
Or most of those guys?
Well, the Cinto is supposed to
But
be.
again, because as it is infinitely variable per slope and conditions, it's infinitely variable per plane as well. You know what I mean? Like, so, and not only that, it's also then infinitely variable per pilot and how he flies as well. So, nobody can tell you, oh, on your plane, oh, I've got the same plane as you. You must have 10% differential and 5% snap flap and this and that, because we fly differently. We like a different feel on the stick. I don't like to move the sticks. You want to use full travel, all this type of stuff. So again, per slope, per conditions, per glider, per pilot. Nobody can tell you. They can give you a good starting point, you know. And the thing is, Wayne touched there on ballast. That you'll find will carry on more than most things per glider. Some gliders work well with ballast, and some gliders don't like ballast, specifically in the turns. Every glider likes ballast on a straight line, but as I've tried to illustrate here on how little time you will spend in a straight line, it's not what your glider does in a straight line and what it does in a turn. That'll make or break the day. And some gliders will turn with a lot of ballast, and some gliders don't like it at all. And this is again something that you will have to.
I must actually print out those notes. I think I've got saved a bookmarked it. I must print it out and then
No,
give
don't print
everybody.
it out. Just.
Well, I can just send it on to
online,
everybody.
and then we can get it. We can put it
Yeah.
on the WhatsApp group and or whatever. Yeah.
Because this is one of the world's leading, F3F flyers, and he said that, and he talks about how to practice. He talks about setup and that as well, but he said the whole thing about it, at the end of the day, is about creating a rhythm. And so what they do to practice is they fly like a long straight fence line.
I read that.
On one day, they just fly straight down that fence line, turn, and they fly straight back the fence line. That's the only thing they practice on that day. Another day they'll practice only turns and getting those turns right. And there's no speed or anything involved. And then you tie the two together. As he said, the most important thing above all else is creating this rhythm that you run. So it's, as they come down, they're already going into the turn. And that turn must look exactly like that turn. And so the straightening out, if you look at a lot of their videos, as they straighten out, they're already going into the next turn. And so he said, once you get that, and a lot of practice he suggests as well is actually just doing aerobatic loops in front of yourself, like 3 loops, and see if you can keep them looking the same constantly and creating that control of your your controls. And once you get that rhythm going, then you can start looking at all the other aspects of it. But that, he said, is the most important thing to learn. I must find that information. And send it.
That's Prof. John Treble that wrote that.
Is it?
I posted it on the group. I've got it if you
Have you?
want it.
Is that what you posted the other day?
Yeah, I
read
posted
that.
it.
I read exactly that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember reading that.
Steve, what is F3F and how does F3F tie in with pylon racing?
F3F is the official. So FAI, the Federal Aeronautic International, which is French, whatever type of thing, is the main governing body for, I think, for all flying. I think even full size.
Yeah.
So they, I think if it starts with an F, I think it's gliders, So if it's then F3, 3 is unpowered, because we have F5, and 5 is now powered gliders. So F3 is unpowered gliders, J is just thermaling, F3B is a multitask, thermaling, and I'm going to call it pylon racing. They don't call it pylon racing. And F3F, it's just a designated number.
But the F is that particular to slope, or what is it?
No,
What is
F for glider, 3 for unpowered, and the next F is, I'm 90% sure of what I'm saying, I'm not 100% sure. And then the last F is specifically for pylon racing. It's officially, it's not called pylon racing.
So the last F is particular to pylon racing.
Yes.
But so it's not like the guys are using similar looking planes,
No,
similar
no,
type of
no.
planes.
No, so
It
they
can still
have
be
got
any kind of
they've
plane.
got a set of rules, and again, I'm speaking a little bit out of turn over here, but the main 3 things on the rules is the diameter of the nose. I'm not quite sure what that's about, because if it's this diameter or if it's that diameter, if you hit open the chest with a glider going on in case it's going to hurt either way. But anyway, they've got a diameter of the nose. They've got a maximum wing area and a maximum wing loading.
It says here F3F is exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It says competition involves flying 10 consecutive laps for 100 meters.
So as an example, it's not an important example, but so if we look at F3B, as I said, that's a multitask. They're going to do a little bit of thermal and a little bit of what, and they get winched up for their tasks, and find thermals and do this and do that. Then you get F5B. So it's the same thing, but the 5 now denotes that it's actually with a power glider.
Yeah.
And they have recognized.
But now sticking to what we're gonna do here, if you're talking F3F or you're saying pylon racing is actually the same thing.
Yes, pylon racing
There's
is
no difference between
pylon
F3F
racing
and
is almost
pylon
like a
racing.
slang term of
Alright,
what we're doing.
So it's the same thing.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if you go to the world champs, they don't say pylon racing,
They say
they're doing
F3F.
F3F.
Alright.
Because again, at an F3F event or pylon racing event, they don't fly Bs or even 6-inch class anymore. They used to do it as a fun thing in days gone by. They used to fly the foamy class. I'm not quite sure what the rules were, but and then they would fly multiple planes at the same time. And then they used to do a 60-inch class as well, which was for molded planes or whatever. But we are going to do the 3 different classes as more as an introduction and to try and hook people in to see who is interested and who's not interested. And I'm not to say that we'll only do it for the 1 year, but we'll just see how our interest grows with this event. We might find that those are just not interested in the open class and they actually just want to race Bs or whatever. And Hitesh was talking to me on the way up now from flying. He's really keen to see like a foamy class for the warbirds, and I think that sounds like an awesome thing, you know. But if we at the moment we want to, and if we do want to attract pilots from all over the country, Durban, we've got our friends in Durban that always support us. But if we want to extend that to the likes of Joburg and so like that, we cannot get guys down from Durban and Joburg and tell them to race fucking foamy planes. This is just not happening.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to come down for a reason. They're going to come down for a purpose. And for me, a little bit exciting and very interesting aspect over here is the nice thing about pylon racing is it's a set thing in the sense that if we lay out exactly a 100-meter course, if we are able to do that, then if I fly a 40-second thing, or a 30-second run, or heaven forbid a 25-second run, I kind of know where I am according to the rest of the world. You know what I mean? Like it's not like aerobatics where it's those judges and the way they're looking at you type of thing or whatever. This is if it's 100 meters, your time is your time. That's it. You know what I mean? I kind of know where I'm sitting. You sort of if you consistently do 30 seconds or just below 30 seconds. Then you kind of say to yourself, well, maybe it's time to buy a real nice glider and save up for some air money and go overseas, you know. But if I keep on doing 50 seconds and 60 seconds, well, then just have some fun and do it for some fun. But at least you kind of know where you are.
And now the guys taking part, there's 3 different classes. You can take part in all 3 or in just one.
Most definitely.
And
The only thing there is that one plane can only do one class. Okay,
Yeah,
so you can fly your B wing in open class. Open class is open class. You can fly fucking whatever you like there, but you can't fly it in open class and the B class.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So if you're gonna fly all 3, you actually need 3 different planes.
Yes.
That's the bottom line.
Yes.
And is each guy getting only one chance in, or how does
No.
that work?
So I mean, this is the thing is, you
Numerous
know,
chances. In each class.
the reason why we've got the 3 classes is to try as an introduction and to try and grab as much interest as possible. But to get, I know there's a thing in the world champs. Oh, I can't remember what it is now. But I think it is that they want a minimum amount of runs before it becomes a world champs. In other words, they're not going to have a world champs based on one run. You know what I mean? And the world champs, it used to be, and I think it probably still is. It's like 5 or even 7 days of flying. You know what I mean? But what I'm trying to get at is that we want to have as many runs as possible, just in case you have a bad run. You have 3 good ones, 1 bad one, and so like that.
Does this take place over 2 days?
Yes.
Don't they have a minimum of 4 or 5 runs
I
per
think-
competition
I
per
think it is.
person?
I think it's something
They
like
take an
that, yeah.
average, they
Yeah.
disregard the 2 bad ones or something, they
type of thing, something
take
like
the best
that, yeah.
3 or something like
We
that.
can read up
So
on
they
that, but I
average.
mean,
Typically four or
we'll
five
try and squeeze in as much
per-
as possible. The thing is, so doing 3 classes, it does mean we've got less chance of having multiple goes at each class, you know. Hopefully we get in, but the nice thing about pylon racing, in some ways, is that it's kind of over real quick, you know. Our aerobatic event, running 2 pilots at a time, I mean, 2 pilots would be like 20 minutes or something like this.
Yeah.
I mean, typically you're up here for a minute, you know, and we're going to look for landing. Just on that note, what I've seen the guys do before in practice, which is quite cool, is, and they specifically do it on really windy days where landing is a bit dodgy, because it seems like a bit of a waste. If we go to practice now, and Marcus, now your turn, and you chuck out and you do your 10 laps and you say, okay, Mark, go land. You're gonna, what, ready to go up? You know, I haven't done anything yet, you know? So what they would do, what these guys were doing, which I thought was very cool, they go, and their first run is kind of like an official run. They do their 10 laps. As soon as he's finished, he goes out into the lift, he does a stall turn, still outside the course. He does a second stall turn, a third stall turn, and he comes back in again. And everybody gets a chance to do that. And then you can have multiple goes. He does his next 10 laps. Out, stall turn, stall turn, stall turn, back in again. And you know, this is the type of thing that we'll do when we practice, because we want you to run multiple times. We don't want to send you up there. Can you imagine now you send you out there, you gone for a minute, now you must land and then you damage your plane. You know, I mean, this is a waste of time. So, you know, that's the type of thing we might look at, you know, especially when we get past just flying the course and now we actually want to run some times and see what we're doing, you know. Again, we don't want to just get you out once. You know, the first time will be like semi-official, but then we need to, you know, get the guys going.
In other words, every pilot you say, okay, he's having, say, he's got 3 minutes air time.
Type of thing.
Yeah,
Type of thing.
yeah.
You know.
It's gonna be 3 runs.
Because the downside of this is that all types of competition, and let's just talk about flying, is quite unsocial in the sense that not everybody wants to fly pylon racing. So you also don't want to be taking up the whole slope just for pylon racing. So what we'll probably have to look at for those guys who are keen and want to practice, to get there at 11, and we'll do from 11 till 12 or 11 to 1 type of thing, and then we got to have the slope open for the guys who want to do combat and environments and stuff like
Couldn't
that.
one divide the slope up? I mean, you've got your pylons there and say, okay,
You know, the thing
this
is-
area is for pylon racing. We
Pylon
got-
racing will use up what we fly. And the thing is that, you know, the guys that, and I mean, I'm definitely one of those, the guys that want to muck about over here and over there type of thing. And I mean, we can't tell people that they can't fly today, you know. So anyway, it's not going to be a problem. As I said, for those guys who want to put in some practice, let's just organise to get there a little bit earlier and
Yeah, but I'm still saying, I'm just to me,
Yeah.
it makes more sense in my mind. I mean, we're doing it all the time on the slope. Somebody's flying, and he's flying more or less that pattern.
yeah.
So okay, I'm going to fly over there, so he's out of his way. You know, if you got your pylon set
I
up
mean,
here,
if we've got a slope
And
that
that
can
area-
accommodate that, then that'll be great.